Days of our lives may be heading into one of those weeks where everything feels unstable at once. Not because Salem is exploding in a single obvious way, but because too many secrets, returns, and unresolved emotions are about to collide in the same window. And that is when this show becomes the most dangerous. The week of April 20th through 24 looks packed with major turning points. So the big question is not just what happens next. It is which storyline detonates first. Let's break it all down. On the surface, Shawn moving into Jada's apartment after his hospital release can be explained away as a practical choice. He needs support, she is willing to help, and both of them can pretend this is simply an act of friendship. But in Salem, arrangements like this rarely stay practical for long. What makes this setup dangerous is not some immediate romantic confession. It is the slow erosion of distance. When two people with unresolved history begin sharing space, even ordinary moments start carrying emotional weight. A quiet check-in becomes personal. A simple act of care starts feeling intimate. The more time they spend in each other's orbit, the harder it becomes to keep old feelings in the past. Jada may genuinely believe she can keep this situation under control, but emotional boundaries are often easiest to defend before daily closeness starts wearing them down. Shawn, meanwhile, is in a vulnerable state physically and emotionally, which makes him even more likely to respond to comfort in ways that complicate everything. So this storyline may not explode all at once. It may build through accumulation, through silence, hesitation, and moments that seem small until they suddenly are not. And that kind of slow burn danger can be far more gripping than a rushed reunion, because viewers can sense the shift before the characters are ready to name it. Compared to the romantic tension surrounding Shawn and Jada, Marlena's story may look quieter at first. But emotionally, it could be even heavier. If Marlena is forced to protect Theo's secret about Lexi being alive, then she is not just keeping confidential information. She is carrying knowledge that could profoundly affect people she cares about. That is what gives this story its weight. The dilemma is not merely professional. It is personal in a way that could wear her down from the inside. And the longer that silence lasts, the harder it may become to justify it. Paulina's possible role only makes that pressure more intense. If Paulina opens up in therapy and Marlena realizes just how many layers this secret now has, the situation becomes much more unstable. At that point, this is no longer one person protecting one truth. It becomes a chain of silence involving multiple people, each one increasing the odds that everything could unravel at the worst possible time. Marlena may have to sit in rooms with people whose lives could be changed by what she knows, while saying nothing. That kind of restraint can be more painful than open conflict because it forces her to absorb the emotional fallout before anyone else even understands it is coming. So if Lexi does reappear suddenly, the shock will matter. But what may matter even more is how much internal strain the story creates before that moment ever arrives. Xander sleeping with Gwen may look like an act of defiance on the surface. It sends the message that he is moving on, numbing the pain, and refusing to sit around grieving Sarah's choices. But that interpretation may be far too generous. This does not feel like emotional closure. It feels like emotional displacement. Xander may be trying to outrun humiliation more than heartbreak, and those are not the same thing. Sarah turning toward Brady is not just painful for him because of lingering love. It is painful because it reminds him that someone he still wants is building a future that no longer centers him. And when Xander feels powerless, he often becomes more impulsive, not less. That is why this storyline could become darker than a simple jealousy plot. Gwen may offer distraction, but distraction is not stability. If anything, being with Gwen could force Xander to confront how hollow this attempt at escape really is. Instead of giving viewers a straightforward spiral, days may let Xander slip into something more subtle and more dangerous. Not constant rage, but deepening instability. Not dramatic declarations, but increasingly reckless judgment. The more Sarah appears to move forward, the more Xander may feel cornered by emotions he cannot dominate or reverse. And once pride, bitterness, and desperation start feeding each other, he may become far more unpredictable than anyone around him is prepared for. Chad's return is easily one of the most important developments of the week, but what makes it especially effective is the timing. He is not coming back to ease into Salem again. He is walking straight into a family situation that already feels fragile, tense, and highly combustible. That matters, because returns like this are strongest when they do not just revive nostalgia. They shift active storylines. And Chad may do exactly that. Stefano's will reading already gives the week a built-in sense of danger. Events like this are never truly about paperwork in Salem. They are pressure points. They gather wounded egos, unresolved rivalries, buried resentment, and competing agendas into one room, then wait for one unexpected development to blow the whole thing open. So Chad stepping back into the DiMera orbit at that exact moment gives his return immediate narrative weight. But the family angle is only part of what makes this complicated. There is also the emotional fallout waiting for him. Belle is still part of the conversation, which means Chad's return could revive unfinished romantic momentum almost immediately. At the same time, Kat's growing connection to EJ creates a very different kind of tension. That dynamic may leave Chad forced to process more than one uncomfortable truth at once. Not only that things changed while he was gone, but that some of those changes may hit closer to home than he expected. That is why his comeback may feel less like a homecoming and more like an intrusion into unstable territory. Chad could alter the emotional balance of several relationships simply by showing up. His presence may force Belle to reassess where things stand. It may complicate Kat's emotional direction. It may even sharpen existing friction around EJ if Chad starts sensing motives, loyalties, or attachments that do not sit right with him. The story does not need Chad to arrive angry for the impact to be strong. It only needs him to arrive at a moment when too many tensions are already simmering beneath the surface. And if Lexi appears during that same wave of DiMera chaos, then Chad's return may instantly become tied to one of the week's biggest emotional shockwaves. In that case, he would not just be returning to Salem. He would be returning at the exact moment the ground starts shifting under everyone else. Joy's return has the potential to hit harder than almost any other development this week, not simply because of the baby news, but because of what that news could expose. If Joy admits she lied about the pregnancy test results, then the damage goes far beyond one deception. What she brings back into Alex and Stephanie's life is not just a surprise. It is proof that the relationship they were trying to stabilize may have been standing on uncertain ground all along. Soap Baby reveals work best when they do more than shock. They expose fault lines that were already there but easier to ignore before the pressure intensified. And that may be exactly where this story is headed. Alex could be pushed into immediate emotional and moral conflict, trying to figure out what responsibility now looks like, while Stephanie may be hit with the far more painful realization that her future can be rewritten by information she never had the power to prepare for. Because once a secret like this comes out, the conversation is no longer just about whether Joy lied. It becomes about trust, timing, loyalty, and whether Alex and Stephanie's bond is strong enough to survive a reality neither of them planned for. Even good intentions may not help much if both of them begin reacting from fear rather than clarity. And Stephanie's position may be especially heartbreaking. The deepest wound here may not be Alex's connection to Joy by itself. It may be the feeling that the life Stephanie thought she was building was far less secure than it seemed. That is the kind of realization that can make someone pull back emotionally before any final decision is even made. Not because love disappears, but because stability does. It threatens to transform one buried lie into multiple consequences at once: romantic fallout, parental responsibility, and the possibility that Alex and Stephanie are about to discover they were never as solid as they hoped. So the real suspense may not come from the reveal itself. It may come from what happens in the moments right after, when each character has to decide what they can forgive, what they can accept, and what changes everything for good. And that is what makes Joy so dangerous in this moment. She is not just bringing back information. She may be bringing back the version of the truth that no one's relationship can survive unchanged. So as Days of Our Lives heads into the week of April 20th, the real pattern may be this: nobody is entering a clean storyline. Every major player seems to be walking into a situation that is already emotionally compromised. Shawn and Jada may be stepping into temptation. Marlena may be cornered by silence. Xander may be masking heartbreak with chaos. Chad may return just in time for the Damaras to implode. And Joy may deliver the one reveal that changes Alex and Stephanie's future for good. But which of these stories do you think will hit hardest first? Will Chad's return shake Salem the most? Will Marlena be forced into an impossible choice? Or will Joy's baby bombshell become the twist that leaves the biggest damage behind? Drop your predictions in the comments below, and if you want more Days of Our Lives spoilers, breakdowns, and deep dive analysis every week, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because in Salem, the moment things start to feel manageable, that is usually when the real disaster begins.